It's time for the moment you've been waiting for.
Okay.
Three gays walk into a bar.
Three
gays walk into a bar.
Three gays walk into a bar. Hello.
What's up?
Hi, everybody.
Bitches.
Yep.
We have a very,
We're
very exciting show planned for you today.
Do we?
Yes, we do.
I don't know anything.
Today is conspiracy theories,
Yes.
everybody. And how it's going to work is I'm just going to cover some lightly toned conspiracy theories, just about movies. I got some Disney theories. I got a Scooby Doo theory, and then they just get a little darker as we go on.
We love dark.
We'll
We love
talk
dark,
about the moon
yes.
landing, and then we'll talk about 9/11.
Moon landing is one of my favorites.
Yes, and the latter two, I basically take from an approach of debunking because I feel like the conspiracy theories are bullshit. If either of you disagree, then we can discuss that in the moment.
Obviously.
And I'm going to be debunking like common myths around the moon landing and 9/11, and then I guess if either of you object, you can object to whatever you think is bullshit. But I think I have pretty sound evidence to show that 9/11 was not a conspiracy and that the moon landing was not faked. But before that, we have even more important Disney theories.
Yes.
Yes. All right. So let's go on with our. Let's just get right into it. Let's just get into what triggered us this week.
No,
No, you don't want to do it.
that triggered me.
What?
Just kidding.
What did my awful transition?
Yeah.
Yeah, that probably would have triggered me as well if I were in your position. So I apologize. for that.
Position.
If I was in your position, I'm a professional. Can't you tell?
Future merch.
Future merch position.
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 Yep. Oh, we already have a bunch of sayings that'll go on shirts.
Oh my
Yeah.
god. Well, now I'm here, so.
Hell yeah, boner.
Hell yeah, boner.
Who wants to present first? I know what I'm doing. Do you guys know what you're doing?
I've suddenly forgotten everything that has ever happened in my life ever.
Yeah.
So.
That's what happens when you're put on the spot. You just forget everything.
You're just like.
BJ, you want to
lead
lead us in what triggered us this week?
Well, something that fucking triggered me this week. I have this particular coworker that is very ignorant and doesn't really know how to talk to people the right way.
Oh, wonderful.
The first time I met this coworker, I'm just gonna stop fucking hiding their gender. She.
Now, just to clarify, there's no chance that she'll ever watch this, right?
No.
Okay.
God no. Well, the first thing that she ever talked to me about or asked me, it was right in the middle of the store, and we were going through clothes and like putting up clothes and stuff. And she asked me, she was like, "So if a woman is in a lesbian relationship with a trans woman, does it still technically classify as a straight relationship?" And I looked at her, I was like, no,
That's
like they're still a woman.
not how that
works. And she I had eventually talked to another one of my coworkers who is a lesbian and has a trans girlfriend.
Oh, wow.
That apparently she has said to her that apparently she hasn't met the right one or hasn't ever met a nice one. And her response to that was, "No, maybe you just have only met the ones online and troll in the comments." I was like, yeah, that's pretty accurate.
Is there any chance that she was asking you that from a stance of wanting to be educated,
No.
or was it just to
It was
be
condescending.
condescending?
It was very
and
condescending.
rude. Okay.
Because the next conversation that we had with each other, she asked me, "Is there any level of gay that's above Richard Simmons gay?" And I was just like, "What?"
Well, maybe she's just joking. You know, like maybe
But
there's
like
just a
the
joke.
one gay guy that's like openly like feminine that works there,
Yeah, being
like
you.
she only decides to talk to me about gay stuff all the time.
Okay, yeah.
So
well, yeah, because she's like basically making fun of you.
pretty much.
Like, honestly, if I worked with her, I would ignore her every time she spoke to me unless it was about work.
And today I got really triggered because like I was helping out in donations, and there's a door right in between the front counter and donations. So she comes up, opens the door, and is like, "Hey, like a customer needs help with a carryout," because donations people are supposed to help out with like carryouts and stuff like that, to like move furniture that they can't do. So I was like, "Okay, I will be like right there in a second." She was like, "Hey, well, she's pulling up her car like right now, so you know, like," and I was like, "Okay, like I'm coming, like give me a second." So I like started walking that way, and I was like looking around for her, and she was like, "She's right there," like exactly like that. And I was like, "Okay, like just let the customer find me."
Yeesh.
And then like I went to the and like, hold on.
Lighten up, would you?
And she popped off to me and said something like, hold on. It just triggers me so much that I can't really remember exactly what she said. But she said something along the lines of like, don't like she didn't say don't come for me, but that was pretty much what she said. And I was just like, okay, well, you were the one that came for me first. Like you were the one that started yelling at me and giving me attitude before I even said anything. So don't even. And I just like walked away.
So you definitely have a few coworkers that you don't get along with.
She's literally the only one that I don't get along with.
I see.
Except for maybe one manager, but he's just kind of an asshole.
I'm so glad that I work with all my friends.
Yeah, right.
See,
I don't really
I
not get
actually-
along with anybody.
I
at
actually
my
get
work.
along with a lot of my coworkers. Like we all like have had this bond, and it's
Well,
pretty
yeah,
nice. I
'cause
enjoy working there because
you're
a
a
lot of
good-
people.
You're a good person, but that fucking bitch decided to basically profile you before she even knows you
Yeah,
because you're gay and it's obvious.
And she was like, well, like maybe like back to the who's gayer, like is there any level of gay like more than Richard Simmons? And I was like, I mean, like I don't really pay attention to that because it's
I'm just trying this for a while so I can lean back.
because like it doesn't really matter. And she was like, well, maybe Elton John. And I was just like, why are you talking about all these old gays?
Elton
Like,
John is like amazing.
Yeah, I
Anyway,
know.
so
And I
it's
was
like a
like, why are you
compliment
talking
kind
about
of
all
thing?
these old gays? Like, there's a completely different like style of like femininity, and like it's just like there's literally a gay guy on YouTube that does like multiple that do makeup and like do drag.
I
It's
would
like,
say drag is higher than Elton John.
I think
John dances flamboyantly and sings really well.
I think that drag is probably the highest form
Yeah,
of gay
it
that
kind of has to be, right?
Yeah.
Being
Yeah.
in full drag, dancing on a stage to Britney Spears, I think is the highest level of gay. that you can
Yes. Yeah.
And if that's the career path I go down, I'll be like the gayest bi person ever.
I am here for it. I'm ready
Honestly,
to go down that path.
I would love to be the gayest bi person ever. That'd be like a title that I would own,
Oh my god.
right?
Yes.
Like it'd be an anomaly, like a drag queen that likes women. What? Be crazy. Be honestly crazy.
Well, that I'm triggered for you, PJ.
Thank
I
you.
would honestly probably not be able to work
Like-
there anymore because
No, like
I'd slap her.
me and a couple
Slap
other
a bitch.
coworkers have like kind of like conspired, like jokingly, like saying that we should like petition to get her fired. And yeah.
Let her.
Jokingly, quote unquote. Like I would actually try.
like honestly, I probably could. Like I could like
just casually mention how much she sucks at her job to your manager. That's what I do to people I don't like.
But see, what
No,
sucks is that
dude.
with Goodwill, like, it's very, very hard to get fired from that job. Like, we have had people like call in for like a week straight, yet they're still on the schedule for like the next week, and they'll like come in without like pretty much any repercussion.
That's
Like,
how you know they're
like
desperate for people.
Yeah, I mean, like they're desperate for people because, like, I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
That's
Because
how
people always be quitting.
that's how
Yeah.
it was whenever I worked at Mickey D's. So because no one wants to work at
I worked there for 3 days, and I was like, "Fuck this shit."
yeah. I'm surprised that I worked there for fucking 10 months. Like
Ew.
I actually
wild.
worked there long enough to where they were gonna make me a manager. And I was like, nope. And I went to, the job that I have now. So,
That's,
and it's probably the best job that I have had ever.
I have the same job.
Yes.
It's getting
So I
warm.
guess I can talk about what triggered me this week.
Hell yeah.
Like, what if I just talk about men every week? I'm like, why are men?
Please don't.
Shit. All right. I totally forgot what I was going to say.
You want me to do mine?
Yeah, I have to think about mine.
All right, so mine happened while I was at work, but it doesn't really have anything to do with work. It just was a conversation I had with somebody, and I was wearing red nail polish, like I am now. When this happened, I was just facing something on the shelf, just making the shelf look nice. And he comes up to ask me a question, and he sees that I'm wearing red nail polish, and he asks, "Why are you why are you wearing nail polish, man?" And I was like, "Why not?" And he's like, "'Cause that's what girls do." And we essentially we ended up having a conversation. And it was a cordial conversation, I mean, no one really got too inflamed. I mean, I was at work and I told him that. I was like, "Look, I'm at work. You're a customer. Customer service only goes so far when you're asking me deep personal questions, and you might not like the answer to those questions." So, I just, let him know that right from the get-go. And he's like, "Oh, that's all right." Basically, the gist of his side of the conversation was he was trying to convince me that my life would be much more satisfying and I would be much more happy if I turned over to the Lord, and I didn't give over to temptation and yield to temptation.
I'm sorry, but that just makes me want to fucking kill people.
It kind of makes me want to vomit. I told him that I'm not just going to go home and break up with my boyfriend and go off and date women. And he's like, "Well, yeah, it's not supposed to happen overnight. It would be nice if it did." And at a certain point in the conversation, before I started to calm down, I was actually shaking. Once I really heard what he was saying, and once it just kind of clicked into place, okay, this is what this guy's about, I was getting pretty angry, but I didn't let it show. I was just kind of having these uncontrollable shakes while he was talking to me. And it was a pretty back and forth conversation, but it was pretty nice. The thing is my points were all this is how I feel, this is who I am. I'm not going to change how I feel or who I am. I've grown up in an environment where I've been told that it's wrong my whole life, so I've pushed this side of me away. I pushed it down, and now that I've embraced it, I feel happier than I ever have in my entire life. And I'm not willing to give that up for anything, especially not
religion.
a holy
Some hillbilly,
text.
fucking redneck hick man that doesn't mean anything to.
I'm not going to give it
life.
up for some archaic way of thinking that we only came up with before we had the answers to certain questions.
Yeah.
Before science was able to uncover the secrets of gravity, where the sun goes away at night, and what are the meaning of the stars, what are the stars, what's the shape of the earth. Before we knew all that shit, religion was a way for our ancestors to answer those questions.
Mm-hmm.
That's why there are so many religions, is because different groups of people in different civilizations came up with different answers to different questions. That's why there are so many religions that are so wildly different. And, like, you claim to have the answer, but who's to say that your answer is the correct one? Like, you have the understanding. Like, I asked him this. It's like, how do I know that you truly have, like, the right answer to all of life's questions and not the church down the street that has a different way of thinking? Like, why should I go to your church and not theirs or any other church? And he said, because ours is correct. Well, how do you know? Because it's in the text. Well, there are so many other holy texts. Like, how do you know which holy text is the right one? And if the answer is only faith, then I'm sorry, that's not a good argument. If your answer to any question is scripture, that's not an argument, dude.
Yeah.
That's not something that you should present to a debate. If all mine are intellectual and they actually have an objective meaning and yours do not, then who do you think is winning this argument? Who do you think is like coming out on top in the conversation? And like, I brought up a few things. Like, you referenced the Bible. The Bible has many passages on the logistics of buying and selling slaves. But I don't assume you yourself are a slaver. I said this to him. I don't assume you yourself are a slaver. Because it's not how we as a society generally think now. We don't generally think it's okay for there to be slaves, but in the time that the Bible was written, we did, so it's in there. And I actually reference a book that I read recently. It's Narrative in the Life of Frederick Douglass. No, sorry. Narrative in the Life of an American Slave by Frederick Douglass. And for anyone out there who hasn't read it, I highly recommend you do. It's very well written. It's written by Frederick Douglass, and if you don't know who that is, he was a pioneer in the abolitionist movement. He was used by the movement as a tool, successfully so, because he was a former slave who learned to read and write while he was a slave. And his narrative that he wrote was used to show the horrors of slavery, and there are many horrors in the book. And he was raised as a slave in a part of the country that actually treated its slaves better than in, like, the Deep South. And some of the shit that he experienced and some of the shit that he saw was so crazy. Like, he was raised on a plantation by a guy who was actually lauded for his ability to break slaves. And he was sent there, and he said that he did feel broken. It was the constant beatings and the constant starvation and just never being comfortable, always working day in, day out. He said that his spirit did feel broken for a time. And I brought that up because the white slavers in that book used the Bible to justify the slaves.
Yeah.
It used the Bible to justify why they had slaves. And Frederick Douglass harshly ridiculed that, as he should, saying that it was extremely hypocritical for these people to preach happiness and love and at the same time beat someone because of the color of their skin and order them around and tell them what to do.
Yes.
And he said that was like false Christianity, but that was the popular opinion at the time. So I also reference Oscar Wilde. He was light years ahead of his time as far as his writing and his plays. It was spectacular. He was profoundly talented, but he was sent to 2 years hard labor for the crime of sodomy. And in Britain in those days, it was illegal to be found to be a homosexual. So him being sent to prison for that was the cause of his rapid health decline, and he died very shortly after in the year 1900 at the age of 46. So really, no one was safe when it comes to these outdated modes of thinking. And who's to say that in another dozen years, in another 50 years, your way of thinking won't now be outdated? It already kind of is, by the way. But who's to say that it won't be wild? Like you will be the minority soon if you're not already. Guy who I was talking to.
Yeah, that's why I can't wait until the older generation fucking dies. Because
Honestly.
all of their backwards thinking is gonna die with them, because our generation is gonna come out with like all these, you know, new age ideas and ways of thinking and like morals and like dignity, fucking dignity. Like
Kind
I don't
of soft
understand.
reset.
Yeah, like you can be like, I'm not religious, but you can be a fucking Christian and love someone no matter what their sexuality is, and also not to judge them, because it literally fucking says that in the goddamn Bible.
I have two more things to say on that. The first being, if I wanted to, I could dump PJ, date a woman, and just ignore this side of myself and give over to God, and that would be it, and I'd be good, apparently. And my soul would be saved, and like I wouldn't be giving over to temptation anymore.
You wouldn't go to hell.
I wouldn't wear faggy nail polish or faggy lipstick or dangly earrings or a RuPaul t-shirt like I am wearing right now. I would cease to do that stuff, and my soul would be saved. You know, like hit like whoop-de-freaking do. What about PJ though? Like, I'm bisexual.
I'd be dead.
PJ is 100% gay. Like, he is super mega gay. So what you're telling me, guy that I met in the truck, what you're telling me, guy that I met at my work, is that my boyfriend is, by the God who made him, condemned to eternal damnation.
And has no chance of forgiveness ever.
He has no chance because you were made this way. You didn't choose to be gay. When Christians say that being gay is a choice,
the fact that I'm still attracted to men proves
yeah,
that sexuality is not a choice.
if it was a choice, then you would choose to be done with men forever.
100% I would be gay.
Yeah.
But men, I don't know. They're still attractive to me.
Okay, well, the other thing that I meant to say, just because I said I have two more things to say. First thing is, then PJ is just doomed to suffer eternally no matter what, because he is this way and he cannot change himself. If Christians lose the argument that being gay is a choice, because they maintain that it is, as soon as they lose that argument, their whole thing just kind of crumbles. Now, the last thing I wanted to say on that. Anyone who thinks that it is immoral to be gay, anyone, you could be a great person. I shit you not. You can be a great father, a great mother, or, you know, like a great person who gives a lot to your community. I honestly don't care. If you're a great person, but you still think in your heart of hearts that it is immoral to be homosexual, or that we're going to suffer eternal damnation, and that it would probably be better for me to stop being gay and find a woman, then you are a reprehensible piece of shit. You are vile. You are disgusting. And you could die tomorrow, and I would spit on your grave. Anybody who tells me that I should leave PJ, fuck you.
So what triggered me this week is the sexualization of Billie Eilish's photo shoot.
Oh, that's a good one.
We talk about
I agree.
that?
That's a good one, yeah.
Like,
Okay, I'm not sexualizing it in any way, but like she looked fucking amazing.
Well, yeah, she did. Yeah,
but
she looks great.
But the
She's
whole point
attractive.
of her photo shoot and her interview with Vogue was like that she's literally like talking about the sexualization of younger children, and like all these guys who are like, oh, she's so hot, she looks so good, like look at them titties, look at that body, like fuck you. First of all, like that literally diminishes the entire purpose of why she did it. Like she literally did it for the empowerment of women, and like and like talked about like the injustices that fucking young people have to deal with, especially developing women who are under the age of 18, like sexualizing literal fucking children, like and like people are like making memes and jokes about how she said men are weak. And it's like, it's not a fucking joke. Men are weak. Like, they don't have self-control. And whenever I say men, I don't mean y'all.
I want
Like all men.
I want to
but not
look
you
up.
guys.
I want to look up a specific lyric in her new song, the Your Power.
Yes.
While you're
I
doing
know
that-
I know what lyric you're talking
Because
about.
okay, hold on.
I just
so
wanna
the
say-
song is called Your Power. The first line is try not to abuse your power.
All right.
Okay, yeah. And
Can I just say that Britney Spears' experience is a lot like
it's
this, but
very similar.
even worse because it was not being as publicly put out that this was an issue while it was happening to her.
Yeah.
So Billie Eilish at least has that going for her and on her back.
Yeah. I mean, well, she has a platform.
Yeah.
And I appreciate her using it because she's 18.
What's the lyric, babe?
Hold on, I'm still trying to find it.
Yeah, Britney Spears was super sexualized before she was 18.
Okay, so does it keep you in control for you to keep her in a cage? And you swear you didn't know. You said you thought she was your age. How dare you and how could you? Will you only feel bad if it turns out that they kill your contract?
Maybe
Yeah.
a nice little shout out to a lot of producers out there who use their power and sway in order to get
Yeah.
into
That's
ladies'
literally
pants.
that's literally her whole thing is that like she actually came out about like the abuse that she had to go through with like her producers and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait for the whole album to drop, honestly.
Woo,
I
so excited,
literally
bitch.
have it in my calendar.
And I love that she's going back to her blonde roots.
Yeah.
Yeah, she looks great as a blonde.
But I like it just honestly like disgusts me when men sexualize her when that's literally like the opposite of what she wants.
It's literally like the whole point to why like when she was underage, why she was wearing all like the big
the
baggy clothes that hides her
yes.
body because she didn't want to be that like hot teenager that made good music. She wanted to just have her music be like, you know.
Okay,
Fucking
well
12
that's
years,
that's
damn,
what
bitch.
that's what triggered us this week, and I feel like that was a very satisfying what triggered us this week segment.
Yes.
Yeah.
We all got really triggered about what we were talking about. and
Well, I've been literally thinking those thoughts all week long, and I just had to get them out.
yeah.
Yeah.
I've just been thinking like all week long. People who think that I should leave PJ deserve to die. People who think that I should leave PJ deserve to die. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so I really want to get into this conspiracy theory, you guys. It's so fun.
Okay, go.
Okay. So first off, I need to talk about the connection, potential connection between Frozen and Tarzan.
Oh,
What?
I've heard this one before.
I haven't.
Then let's do it.
All right.
I love
Okay.
it.
So basically, there is a thought that Anna and Elsa's parents from Frozen, you know how they kind of get lost in the beginning because they go off to sea. The theory is that they get shipwrecked near a jungle, and then they get killed by a jaguar and their baby boy that they were with because there's a theory that there was a baby boy on the ship that he grew up to be Tarzan, and that Tarzan is Anna and Elsa's brother. Pretty good, right?
Okay, I'm sorry. Repeat that.
Bitch.
Tarzan.
I'm confused.
Tarzan is Anna and Elsa's brother.
What?
Yeah, okay, so-
here is a quote from a Chris Buck who directed both Frozen and Tarzan. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, quote begins now. I said, Of course, Anna and Elsa's parents didn't die. Yes, there was a shipwreck, but they were at sea a little bit longer than we think they were because the mother was pregnant and she gave birth on the boat to a little boy. They get shipwrecked, and somehow they really washed way far away from the Scandinavian waters and ended up in the jungle. They end up building a treehouse, and a leopard kills them, so their baby boy is raised by gorillas.
What?
That's crazy.
Stop it.
Yes, yes.
I love
Stop
it.
It gets a little deeper, though. There is another potential. There is a connection between Frozen and Rapunzel,
What?
meaning Tangled. Flynn Rider and Rapunzel are seen in Frozen. They're seen in Frozen, and they're seen at the end of Tangled at a large gathering. It sets itself apart from other scenes in that at that time in the movie, Rapunzel has her short brown hair, and the pair are seen like that, her having that hairstyle, in a few frames in the beginning of Frozen. They're being greeted by Anna at Elsa's coronation. So the next time we watch Frozen, we'll have to look for that little Easter egg because they're in the movie
God damn it.
as just like, on screen visually for a time. I shit you not. This shows
crazy.
that the movies happen close to each other and around the same time. Yes, connecting Tangled into a satisfying threesome of Disney classics. Here's the kicker: drawing in a fourth, actually, surprise Disney film.
But that wouldn't make sense because Elsa is the queen, yet her Rapunzel's mother is the queen. That's I feel like.
But they're not set in the same country.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I'm actually getting into that. Frozen takes place around Norway, and Tangled takes place in Germany. If Anna and Elsa's parents were shipwrecked somewhere in between, it would land them in Denmark. Guess where Denmark is? The location of the Little Mermaid shipwreck that she scours in the beginning of The Little Mermaid.
Stop it.
Bruh.
Yeah.
I just got chills.
So
I did too.
whose ship does Ariel go spelunking in? It has never been revealed by Disney. It's only credited as just the sunken ship.
Holy shit.
And after they wrecked, they floated adrift the sea way far away to the jungle, and Tarzan got connected in there somewhere. There are some holes. Okay, we gotta discuss the holes. For starters, Tarzan's parents and Anna and Elsa's parents look nothing alike. Like
Well,
at all,
the dad
physically,
the
They're-
dad looks alike.
Okay, the facial hair is rather different. Tarzan's facial hair has very of the time facial hair.
Well, obviously
It's
they
like-
would have had to been at sea long enough to have a fucking child.
The costume style sets Frozen around the 1830s, Tarzan much later. The book by Edgar Rice Burroughs was set in 1910. And most damning of all, the director said he was joking. And there's actually more to the quote after but the baby boy was raised by gorillas. So in my little head, Anna and Elsa's brother is Tarzan, but on the other side of that island are surfing penguins to tie in a non-Disney movie, Surf's Up. That's my fun little world. He later said that it was a joke, but what if he was covering up the truth because the powers that be at Disney threatened to whack his family should he continue to reveal their twisted secrets? That's what I think.
Jesus.
Oh my god.
I think we all know what the truth really is. Oh, and the most damning of all evidence is in Frozen 2, which I haven't seen, so I'm not going to spoil
I
it
have.
too much. Anna and Elsa find the location of their parents' wreckage, and it turns out it was way up north, and their parents were killed in the event. So, canonically, it's not true. I still think the whole thing is a cover-up, and I refuse to acknowledge Frozen 2 as canon. And that's just the way I feel. That's just the way I feel.
You're like, even though it's the second movie, it's not canon.
Frozen 2 not canon, obviously. Obviously, it's just a spin-off. It's like, one of those alternate reality things, and Tarzan, it really is their brother.
That should be on a shirt. Frozen 2 is not canon.
Frozen. I don't think we can use the name Frozen 2. I don't think that would be allowed.
Aw.
I don't think Disney would really like that.
No, Disney is a big ass fucking company. They'd sue us for
They
all
would-
We could
have.
create a hashtag though.
It would suck us dry.
Hashtag Frozen
Not in a good
2
way.
is not canon.
Yes.
Hashtag Frozen 2 is not canon.
Yes.
Okay, now let me find my mother flippin'. Okay. There is the second conspiracy theory, which is about one of my favorite shows as a kid, Scooby Doo. And it's from none other than Reddit, so We all
Oh,
know
yeah,
it's going to be good. And this one I actually do believe because it just actually makes sense. It just explains why those characters are just riding across country in a van, and they're this like very ragtag, mismatched group of kids.
Yeah.
They don't really seem like they would be friends, right?
Yeah.
Fred and Daphne are like the preppy ones. Velma's the nerd, and Shaggy's the stoner with his dog.
The
like
fucking burnout. Yeah.
the fucking burnout hippie stoner, right?
Yeah.
So here's the Reddit post, and it's from the r/fan theories. Okay, the Mystery Inc. kids from Scooby Doo are draft dodgers on their way to Canada. The show's premise seems fairly innocent, unless you see it as taking place in the real world of America in 1969, the year it debuted. And you start to wonder how 4 mismatched kids wound up living in their van while on an endless cross-country road trip with no clear destination. After all, the show never really bothered to tell us where they were driving all that time, right? The answer? It's 1969. The Vietnam War is at its height, and millions of directionless young people are desperate to avoid being drafted into military service. Hence, they're on the road to Canada to dodge the draft. Consider all 4 kids in turn. Shaggy is the classic hippie, a long-haired jive talker with an eternal case of the munchies who only goes by his nickname Shaggy. You don't question his decision to go off the grid and live in a van with his dog because it seems completely natural for a kid like that in 1969. He names his van the Mystery Machine because he dreamed of, going on the open road and finding all the answers to life's mysteries. And so he took his beloved Great Dane with him. That's the only piece of this Reddit theory that I have question with. I always pictured it being Fred's van because he's always the one driving. I didn't picture it being Shaggy's van.
And one of the new adaptations, like the new.
Oh, they've retconned Scooby Doo so many times. The origin of the Mystery Machine has been.
Well, I'm just saying, like in the new live action version that premiered on Cartoon Network, it was like Daphne's father's like maintenance man's van, and like it was like first shown with like a whole bunch of maintenance shit in there, and it was just like a plain van. So like I was like yeah, that kind of makes sense because Daphne's parents are like really fucking rich, and like she's like this preppy girl. So, like,
well, the thing is that Scooby Doo has been brought forward with the times. So like the Scooby Doo movie from 2002, I think it was, with Matthew Lillard as Shaggy.
It was actually his van.
That wasn't set in the 60s.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty clearly, right?
Yeah.
It was set closer to today. It was probably set just like when it was released
the early 2000s,
because all the costumes are, and all the people look very of the time. There's a lot of early 2000s haircuts in there.
Oh yeah, the fucking
it's very early 2000s.
The frosted tipped spikes.
So this theory only really it only really holds merit for the What's New Scooby Doo original series that came out. It doesn't really apply to like the 2002 Scooby Doo movie because it doesn't really make sense because of the year.
Hashtag Scooby's Doos aren't fucking canon.
Scooby's Doos?
Yeah, right.
Scooby's Doos.
Scooby's Doos?
It's obviously fucking late, all right? I'm an old person who needs a sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm just kidding.
It's like, it's 7:53. It's super late, you guys.
Yeah,
it's
like,
past my bedtime.
Just like need to go to bed.
All right, well, let me go through the other characters here. Fred is the comically clean-cut suburban kid who seemingly has no reason to leave home and hit the highway. While you don't question Shaggy's decision to go nomad, you really have to wonder about him. But of course, there's a reason for that. His draft number just came up, and he's decided to leave home for a new life in Canada. Daphne is Fred's beloved fiancée. I always kind of figured girlfriend or fiancée. It doesn't really make a difference which. Who's opted to follow him north. Fred didn't want to go to Vietnam because he couldn't bear to leave her, and also you don't want to go to war. So she joined him in his roundabout travels. Velma is the rebellious young anti-war activist devoted to standing up for her ideals at any cost.
Fuck yeah.
With the short hair, black glasses, and baggy sweater, she looks like a caricature of a Vietnam protester from 1969.
Yeah.
That's because that's what she exactly is. She joined Fred's group to flee her old college campus when a protest turned violent, and she feels a protective instinct towards Fred because he's a draftee in danger of being sent to his death in a war she opposes. All of the mysteries that we see in the course of the show are just diversions that the kids encounter on the road to freedom in Canada. At heart, the show is a journey from the perspective of 4 disillusioned children from the 1960s.
Hell yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's super cool. I really like that one.
Yeah, it makes sense.
It really does.
So TLDR, the show takes place in 1969, the year that it first came out. Fred's a draft dodger on the run. Daphne's his fiancée. Shaggy's a nomadic hippie with his Great Dane. And Velma is a campus activist. Pretty good.
I am Velma.
I love Velma.
You were Velma.
Yes, 100%.
You
one of the-
are Velma.
In one of the new like cartoon adaptations, the I can't remember. It was like, what was it called? It was like Mysteries Incorporated or something like that.
Yeah, there's been so many.
It was actually a good one. It was the one with that one girl that kind of looked like Velma that they called Hot Dog Water.
I don't know.
I don't know, because she always smelled like hot dog water.
Yeah, I don't know.
It was
a good
pretty
name
it was
then.
pretty funny. But apparently Velma was like in Lesbians with hot dog water.
In Lesbians, huh?
Mhm.
Huh. My voice is just cracking all over the place. My
Like
balls haven't dropped yet.
Shaggy had like the biggest like yeah, I don't know.
Snap, crackle, pop.
All right. What?
Nothing. I'm just stupid.
Yeah, you don't say. PJ, are you ready?
I will fuck you up, bitch. I'm not joking,
right.
bitch.
I'm not joking, bitch.
I'm not joking, bitch.
All right, so now we're gonna debunk all the bullshit around the moon landing. All right, let's do this. The Apollo 11 moon landing
Yeah.
landed on July 20th, 1969, same year as Scooby Doo. Coincidence? Yes. 1969 was one of the most astonishing achievements in human history. That day, an estimated 530 million TV viewers watched U.S. astronauts Neil Armstrong and Mr. Buzz Aldrin take their first steps on the moon. Afterward, the 2 men and the 3rd crew member, Michael Collins, who had to stay in the lunar module. Sucks for him. Flew safely back to Earth and landed in the Pacific Ocean. Like, why couldn't they just like trade spots? It's like, hey, Mike, come on, get out here. I'll take the spot. Like, what the fuck? Homeboy didn't get to walk on the moon.
It's like, I spent all my goddamn time trying to get up to this fucking bitch.
Yeah.
I didn't even get to fucking get out.
I actually talk about this in our first episode ever, The Wonders of Space. Back when it was just me and PJ,
Back when it was only 2 gays.
Back when it was
before
2.
it got spicy.
Back when it was
Back
better.
before it was a spicy tamale.
Back when the show was better. Anyways,
Don't pretend like as if I didn't spice up your life.
just a few years later, some people claimed that the giant leap for mankind had been faked. Conspiracy theories that the moon landing was actually a hoax that the U.S. government had staged to win the space race with the Soviets began to gain traction in the mid-'70s. Although these claims were false and easily debunked, they have persisted to this day. Most of the deniers' quote proof is based on perceived anomalies in the images transmitted back to Earth over the moon's lunar surface. With few exceptions, the same arguments just keep coming up over and over again, says Rick Feinberg. He is the press officer for the American Astronomical Society. He holds a PhD in astronomy, not astrology. He has some first-hand knowledge of this. Nearly 40 years later, Feinberg debated one of the first prominent moon landing deniers, Bill Kaysing, on television. The initial claims that the moon landing were staged came at a time when the Pentagon Papers and Watergate had eroded Americans' trust in the government. Like, probably justified, actually was justified, but faking the success of the Apollo 11 mission would require deception on a grand scale, and it would be practically impossible to pull off, says Feinberg. About 400,000 scientists, engineers, technologists, machinists, electricians worked on the Apollo program, Feinberg points out. If in fact the main motivation for believing in the moon hoax is that you don't trust the government, you don't trust our leaders, you don't trust authority, how can you feel that 400,000 people would keep their mouths shut for 50 years? It's just implausible.
Yeah.
So let's cover actually specific problems with the images. First, that the American flag looks like it's flapping in the wind. Ooh, explain that. If you look at the American flag in still pictures from the Apollo 11 mission, it appears that it is flapping in the wind. But how can that be? There's no wind on the moon. Correct. There is no wind on the moon. The simple answer is that it isn't flapping, Feinberg says. That's because it isn't an ordinary flag. If the astronauts had planted a regular flag on the moon, it would have hung slack like flags do on Earth when there's no wind. That wouldn't make for a very appealing photo. So NASA has designed special flags for astronauts to take with them. All 6 Apollo missions that made it to the moon planted a flag there. These flags had, all American flags, by the way. Go America, USA. These flags had a horizontal rod inside to make them stick out from the flagpole. The Apollo 11 astronauts had trouble extending the rod all the way, and in the still pictures, this creates a ripple effect that makes a flag look like it's waving in the wind. In video images of the flag, you can see it only moves while the astronauts are grinding it on the moon's surface, because there is video of them on the moon. Grinding it. Ooh, grind that rod.
Ew.
After the
Christ.
After the astronauts step away, it stays in the same bent shape because of the partially extended rod. So So eat that, conspiracy theorists, you fucking wackos. All right, I'm trying to turn the page with one hand here. It's a little difficult. Thank you very much. All right.
Struggling.
Next one, you can't see the stars. Explain that, astronauts. You can't see the stars in the photo. They're in space. There should be stars. Gotcha. Because NASA apparently didn't think of that when they faked it. One of the first arguments I heard, and one of the easiest to debunk, is the fact that there are no stars in the lunar sky, Feinberg says. Or rather, there are no stars in the pictures that Armstrong and Aldrin took on the moon. But if you ever used a camera before, it's easy to understand why. All the exposures of the astronaut on the moon are daylight exposures, he explains. The surface was brightly illuminated from the sun, and the astronauts are wearing bright white spacesuits that are highly reflective. The exposure on the astronaut's camera was too short to capture the spacesuits and the moon's surface while also capturing the comparatively dimmer stars. The same thing happens if you go onto someone's back porch and turn on the lights. Even though you can see the stars from where you're standing, a quick exposure camera won't be able to capture them.
Yeah.
Boom. Debunked.
Like, my phone is literally better than the cameras from back then, and I still can't take a picture of the stars.
Right.
I tried taking a picture of the moon the other night, and it didn't turn out bad, but it was like...
It literally just looks like a little dot.
You have to go out to where there's no light.
I was actually able to get the craters in the moon in the picture.
Awesome.
Okay.
I'll have to show you.
Well, the moon is easier to see than a little star, too.
It's 2021.
I also have literally the most recent phone. So.
Yeah. So, all right, the shadows aren't right.
So rich.
The shadows aren't right.
Shut up.
In images from the moon landing, it is possible to see certain objects even though they are in shadow. Skeptics argue that if the sun were the only source of light, this wouldn't be the case. Therefore, the fact that you can see some objects in shadow must be the result of special Hollywood lighting. Bullshit. The problem with this theory is that although the sun is indeed the main source of illumination on the moon, it isn't the only source. Another source is the lunar ground, which reflects the sun's light. In the Apollo 11 pictures, the sunlight is being scattered or reflected off the ground every which way, and some of it, a small fraction, but enough to be able to see, scattered into the shadows.
See, that one wouldn't really make sense, because you can see your shadow on Earth with just the sun. But
Well, there are sources of
you
illumination everywhere.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Why wouldn't you be able to see your shadow on the
Including,
moon with just the sun?
Like the Earth does the same thing. It also reflects the sun back a little bit.
Yeah.
To an extent. This is why, in some images, you can make out a plaque that Armstrong and Aldrin left on the moon, even though it's lying in shadow. Next one, you can't see Armstrong's camera. In one of the pictures from the moon landing, you can clearly see him reflected in Armstrong's... Fuck.
You good?
Yes.
Okay.
In one of the pictures from the moon landing, you can see Armstrong clearly reflected in Aldrin's visor. Some skeptics have pointed out that Armstrong does not appear to be holding a camera, so someone else must be taking the picture. And it does look like that in the photo. When you look in Aldrin's visor, it doesn't look like Armstrong's holding anything. but that isn't actually true. Armstrong couldn't walk around the moon with a regular handheld camera. In his bulky suit, he needed something that was easy to manipulate. All right. Armstrong couldn't walk around the moon with a regular handheld camera. In his bulky suit, he needed something that was easy to manipulate. The camera he used on the moon was mounted on the front of his suit, which is where his hands were.
You stupid whore. Look at her.
Mocha's getting dangerously close to the laptop, but it's okay for right now. Next up, the moon landing is fake because Stanley Kubrick filmed it. Director Stanley Kubrick's film 2001: A Space Odyssey wowed audiences in 1968 for creating a realistic image of outer space.
It still looks pretty good for today.
It still
honestly.
looks pretty goddamn good. I've seen it twice. It is so compelling that that some conspiracy theorists later, motherfucker, of these pages, hello. Some conspiracy theorists later wondered if the government had actually hired Kubrick to film the moon landing in a soundstage. The thing is, the moon landing footage didn't look real because Kubrick filmed it. Kubrick's movie 2001 looked real because Kubrick enlisted astronomical artists and aerospace engineers to help him with it. The only evidence that Kubrick filmed the moon landing has itself proved to be a hoax. Denial of America's great progress in space exploration and belief in these myths is, quote, more of an ideological thing, a political thing, than it is a scientific thing, Feinberg said. To those who know the moon landing was real, conspiracy theorists say that it was a hoax, and they may seem... To those who know the moon landing was real, conspiracy theories that it was a hoax may seem silly and innocuous. But their consequences aren't. They spread misinformation, make people susceptible to other false theories, and it could even earn you a punch from Buzz Aldrin. Oh. And that actually happened. Someone went up to Buzz Aldrin, who was a 70-year-old man, went up to Buzz Aldrin when he was exiting some hotel and just started harassing him. There were cameras around. He had bodyguards around. He's kind of a big deal. But this guy just started harassing him, saying, admit the moon landing was fake. Admit it was fake. And it ended with him, getting in Aldrin's face, saying, you are a coward, you are a liar, you are this and that. And Aldrin just, boom, pops him right in the nose. It's awesome.
Yeah.
It is so great.
That's great.
Earning a punch in the face from a 70-year-old man. Really great. That's what we like to see. That's what we like to see, Dwelling.
We like to see old people abusing the young, right?
Already over that.
I know I do.
But
they deserve
we have enough time to talk about 9/11 still.
What? No.
Neither of y'all fucking pay attention to what I just said.
I just fucking got it. What do you mean?
Babe, what'd you say?
Well, you can find out by watching the podcast.
Okay.
Because I can't remember exactly how I said it.
I guess I'll do that. We gonna talk about 9/11?
Oh.
It was an inside job.
You think it was an inside job?
Yeah.
I do.
You both think it was an inside job.
I feel like,
Yes.
yeah.
Well, I'm coming from the hey Mocha. I'm coming from the perspective that it was not. So this should be interesting, and we'll see how you guys handle me debunking this.
All right, I'll fight you.
Okay, let's do this.
All right.
One of the most persistent claims... Oh, actually, it just goes right into the theories. One, the planes couldn't have caused that much damage. Do you guys believe that?
I mean, with that in particular, I've seen a video... I watched the video of the plane crashing into the buildings, and right before the plane crashed, there was an explosion coming out of all four sides of the building.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, you're talking about... Okay, trying to think exactly where that... Okay, well, so I can just answer that one if you want me to.
Okay.
There's a theory that the towers were brought down by controlled demolition.
Mm-hmm.
Many skeptics point to films of mysterious puffs of smoke emanating from each of the floors of the towers as they collapsed. Is that what you're referencing?
Yeah.
Okay. These puffs of smoke are seen as proof that the building was brought down by the setting off of explosives that had been drilled into the columns of the towers prior to the 9/11 attacks. There are two problems with this theory. First, no credible report has ever emerged of demolition teams being spotted drilling holes in the columns of a busy office complex in the weeks prior to 9/11. Surely somebody on at least one floor would have noticed something. Secondly, the Twin Towers contained enormous quantities of air. As each floor gave way and collapsed down on the one below, the air was instantaneously compressed and had to go somewhere. While it may look like a series of small explosions occurred as the buildings collapsed, what was actually happening was the air mixed with tons of instantly pulverized concrete was expelled outwards as each floor collapsed, thus giving the impression of detonation. It's just what happens when a very tall structure falls to the ground. The air shoots out of the windows. And it's fucking crazy because that thing is fucking insanely heavy and large.
But it looks like it exploded before it hit it.
Well, that is not true. It was not a controlled demolition. It's a totally a natural proven thing that
But like also
happens.
just because like there wasn't like proof or like anybody seen like doing the demolition stuff doesn't mean that they
I suppose
like,
not, but it's highly unlikely because it is a very busy office
I mean, if
office
we're being
complex.
honest, the government hides a lot of fucking shit.
Yeah.
Well,
And I actually remember hearing, I can't remember, I don't know if it was a very credible source, but like I remember hearing that there was a guy like pretty much like those like no survivors, right? But like one of like the very, very few guys that like survived the crash was given like hush money about like how it happened because he was in the building when it happened.
we don't know to what extent that is true. Wild rumors and that could very easily just be a falsity that was spread around after the attacks because faith in the government is at an all-time low. It was a very tender time for the nation, so that's why these theories come up. Just like the moon landing, distrust in the government.
Yeah.
But we can talk about one of the most persistent claims made by skeptics that the two planes that hit the North and South Towers could not have possibly caused so much damage to the floors below impact. How do you guys feel about that? That's the ongoing... Mocha, no. So the ongoing theory is that the two planes that hit the North and South Towers could not have possibly caused so much damage to the floors below impact. How do you guys feel about that? Hitting the top of the tower, that massive tower, could not have possibly caused that much damage. How do you guys feel?
I mean, I feel like the damage is more of like there's not really any proof without like an example. Like there's no way that you can really know that without actually flying a plane into a building.
Well, actually, yes. Numbers and mathematics play all the factor.
No, I'm agreeing with you.
Oh, okay.
I'm
So let me read
saying-
my information
I'm
here.
saying that there's no way that you could like say something against that.
Yeah,
Because
we can explain it. The first jet hit the North Tower between the 98th and 94th floors. The second jet hit the South Tower between the 84th and 78th floors. Despite the height of both impacts, eyewitnesses reported seeing damage to both lobbies of the Twin Towers. How can that be possible? Surely a more plausible explanation is that secondary explosives were set off further down the towers, thus causing damage to the lower floors in both lobbies. The official National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, investigation into the tower's collapse found that the planes had caused considerable damage to both buildings' utility shaft systems as they sliced through the towers. This allowed jet fuel to pour down elevator shafts. The fuel ignited, leading to raging fires gushing down the shafts. Many elevator cables were cut and braking systems disabled upon impact, causing elevators to crash to the ground. Smashing... imagine being in one of those. Ooh.
yeah.
Smashing open lobby doors on impact, sending jets of burning fuel into both lobbies.
Jesus.
These explosive jets caused considerable damage and set many people on fire.
Oh my god.
Jesus. Something witnessed by Jules Naudet, a cameraman who was one of the first on the scene in the lobby of the North Tower shortly after the impact of Flight 11. He saw people caught ablaze. Let's talk about one of the most famous ones. Burning jet fuel cannot melt steel. We've all heard this,
Yeah.
right? The melting point of steel is 1510 Celsius, 1,510. The temperature at which jet fuel burns is between 426.6 and 815.5 degrees Celsius. So 815, not 1510. That is correct. Jet fuel cannot melt steel beams. While it is indeed true that burning jet fuel cannot alone melt steel, a fire that was also fueled by burning furniture, curtains, blinds, chairs, desks, computer equipment, people, and an enormous amount of paper would have burned hot enough to warp steel.
Yeah.
NIST estimates that the fires in the towers reached at least 1,000 degrees Celsius in certain pockets. The point at which steel weakens is 593.3. So at which point it will have lost about 50% of its strength. Heated to the full 1,000 degrees Celsius, steel loses about 90% strength. If it was this weakness in the steel that led to the loss of the building's integrity, as the steel warped and buckled, the columns and steel beams holding the towers up were no longer able to support the weight of the buildings, leading to the pancake-type collapse of both towers. Towers. There are two more myths to debunk. Now, how do you both feel about the information I just presented? It's very scientific, very factual.
I mean, I guess it makes sense.
It's
in a
not
lot
up
of
to
areas.
conjecture.
But what
It's all
about-
numbers.
But what about the fact that the planes could have been hijacked?
That the planes could have been hijacked?
Like-
Well, that's the idea, that they were
No,
hijacked by
no, no,
terrorists,
no.
right?
But by government agents.
If the planes, I actually don't, this website that I pulled this information from didn't go into the whole, like, what if the government was that? It goes into all the physical things, it goes into all, about how the collapsing of the towers was from the planes. So it's largely considered that the whole plane thing was legit, that it was a actual hijacking of an actual terrorist. But I guess that's the one thing we can debate on.
Yeah.
The towers were brought down by controlled demolition. Wait, I already said that. So there's just one more to do. The mystery of Tower 7. World Trade Center 7 was a 47-story, it's much, much shorter, skyscraper that collapsed hours after the Twin Towers fell. When WTC 7 collapsed, it looked to many, including experts observing on the day, that the building was brought down by controlled demolition. This, according to skeptics, is further evidence that it was an inside job. While it may indeed look like WT7 was brought down by controlled demolition, this explanation does not take into account what happened to it in the immediate aftermath of the attack and in the hours that followed. As the North Tower collapsed, considerable amounts of debris smashed into the south face of Tower 7, effectively scooping out 25% of the building from the ground to the 10th floor, thus massively weakening the building's structural integrity. Multiple fires also started as a result of the collapse. One on the 5th floor raged for 7 solid hours. It was only a matter of time before structural damage caused by the North Tower's collapse, added to steel weakened by hours and hours of fire, brought the building down. That the building's collapse looked suspiciously like a controlled demolition can be explained by the fact that with the middle of the building severely compromised, first the east and then the west sides of the building collapsed in on themselves before pancaking to the ground, thus giving off the impression of a controlled demolition of the type often seen on the news and in YouTube. Mic drop.
All right.
So that's my conspiracy theories, y'all. But if you want to talk about, like, the plane, Flight 11, itself was set up, and it was actually like a government setup for that plane to just kamikaze in there. I don't know who would volunteer for that, but apparently the American government is enlisting people to volunteer to actually crash themselves into planes and kill themselves. I wonder what kind of deal forced them to make that, because
Or the people that were on the plane didn't know yet, the pilot.
but
or
at least
something.
one person on there would have had to have known. There were terrorists on the plane that were holding people up, and that took over the cockpit.
Mm.
So if those were government enlisted agents, then the power of the government would have to, like, to force people to want to do that is some 1984 shit. And it makes more sense that somebody would, put themselves on their, that put their lives on the line for their devout, crazy, religious views than their love of the American government. I'm going to kill myself for the American government.
Yeah.
I mean, they go to, sure, they go off to war,
I was
but
gonna say that's literally the army.
yeah, but that I just can't see anybody volunteering to crash a jet into the World Trade Center and set yourself ablaze and die a horrible, gruesome death.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised.
I mean, the plane has to actually be taken over and physically driven into the thing. It's not like they can do that remotely because it was stuck up by terrorists.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if you guys can explain that one.
I mean, maybe you changed my mind, Tristan.
Let me ask you now, do you still think 9/11 was an inside job?
I think that everything's a possibility.
Okay, so I've at least I've at least moved you more towards center.
Yeah.
How do you think, PJ?
I feel about the same.
About the same? You think it was an inside job still?
Cause
I mean, there's. Sorry, I was killing an ant. There are still, I guess, some things that I don't know, are questionable in a way.
yeah, I feel like if the government really wanted to, they would have found any way. Even if it was just putting someone,
I mean, shit,
on
they're
the
probably
plane,
hiding aliens.
Yeah.
Maybe the planes were remotely controlled and there was no actual stick up or anything like that, or there was no actual hijack. It was just the plane's controls. Maybe, but
I feel like
I just
now-
don't see that as being a possibility.
I feel like now I'm more right in the middle.
Hmm.
Right in the middle.
I
Yep.
kind of think that, I don't know, maybe I'm going to take the white knight approach, but I kind of think it's disrespectful to the people who died horrible, gruesome deaths on that day.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit.
Disrespectful to think it's an inside job.
I think so.
I don't think it's necessarily disrespectful. It's still, no matter what we think about it's still happened and it's still horrible.
Well, yeah. We're
3,000
not,
people died for no reason.
Yeah, we're not discrediting their deaths or anything like that. My condolences to the families that actually lost some fucking people. You know what I
course.
mean?
But I feel
But,
I feel like us thinking it's an inside job is just trying to find a legitimate reason for that happening instead of just some random
Instead of radical
yeah
Islam faith,
yeah.
which
But I also just
Mm.
like conspiracy theories,
Right.
Tristan. So
Okay. Moon landing though, how do we feel there?
I mean, I always thought it was real. I always thought that shit was stupid, that people thought it was not real.
I will
for
say
a while, my dumbass was extremely convinced. Everything that you said, I didn't know that any of the stuff was already debunked. So all of the stuff that you were talking about, I thought was real. So I was like, whoa, man.
you had heard the conspiracy side
yeah.
and not the debunk side.
There was also one part that you didn't mention about the moon landing.
Oh?
Is that there was a picture taken of Neil Armstrong's boot, that his boot print on the moon, but then there's the supposed boot like Neil Armstrong's boot first landing on the moon in a museum. And if you look at the two bottom parts of the boot, like they're completely different.
And you didn't hear that debunked?
No.
Well, I didn't have that brought up, so I really don't honestly know anything about that. I don't really feel like looking it up right now. I feel like I kind of said my piece on it.
Yeah.
I will say that when you really think about the moon landing, it is fucking crazy to think that that really happened. It is. It's fucking insane. It's insane to think that in 1960, like, imagine getting in a spaceship. Like, that just feels like a roller coaster on crack. And imagine being on the moon, and how they did it was they lifted off from the moon, and they just used the moon's orbit to gain momentum, and then on a trajectory to Earth. So it was all science. It was all math. It was all mathematics, and a lot of crossing fingers, hoping that we would fucking do it.
Yeah.
But also,
Like another theory is like, why haven't we been back?
we have moon landing conspiracy theorists don't count for the dozens of Apollo missions after the dozens of astronauts that landed on the moon after the original 3.
Yeah.
Technically 2, I guess. But Michael Collins landed on the moon, so he just didn't set foot on the moon. And actually, we are going to be back. NASA has plans. They've launched the Artemis mission. They are enlisting the help of international space stations and rockets.
Isn't that like kind of like new rover for Mars or whatever?
The Perseverance rover landed on Mars, but we're actually the Artemis mission is the moon landing, is the new moon landing by 2024. And this is all just like from my head. I don't have like the actual stats, but I said it in the first episode. So 2024, they plan on landing the first woman and the next man on the moon. And this will be our first time on the moon since 1972. And that's why it's taking so long, is because they're not going to keep up the funding that whole time since 72. It's going to, like, they're building all new equipment to do it with. So in 4 years, we're going to be back on the moon.
Heck
And I'm super fucking stoked.
Yeah.
Like what the fucking like how like cameras have developed now, like. But like also movie editing has like been like super crazy good too. So
Yeah.
who knows? It could also be faked this time.
I don't know. The Perseverance rover certainly seems real as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think they may have plans to land people on Mars, but moon is kind of like the next hurdle, is to just basically their plan is to collect a shit ton of data and learn like even more that we can about the moon. And I am in complete support of that. I think that we should definitely work hard to further the endeavor of human knowledge and wisdom, and we should learn all we can about the universe, and I'm all here for it.
Bro, what if like that'd be so crazy if like we were actually able to have people land on Mars, and like it actually be like colonizable, because like Earth is old
too.
as fuck, and like she's about to die in 1,000 years. Like
Billion.
Oh, whatever.
Try billions.
1,000.
I don't know, but whatever. I'm not gonna be around at that time. But like
Yeah.
my
You won't be
fucking
around
great
the other way.
grandkids,
Great times another
Like,
120,000.
their fucking kids won't be able to go on Mars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Lit. Dope.
Do we have anything else to say? That's all my information. I think I think this was a pretty
Measly
satisfying
arms
episode.
are heavy. There's vomit on a sweater. Mom's spaghetti.
We got very triggered. We learned a thing or two. I convinced Misty a little bit, and that feels good.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
warms my little heart.
Yeah.
All right. What do you guys say that we boogie on out of here?
We're gonna boogie.
We gonna get.
We going boogie.
Let's boogie. Wow.
We going to boogie. All right. Hell yeah, boner. Let's boogie.
Stop. We're not doing. PJ,
All
where'd
right.
you go?
Bye, everybody.
Okay, bye.